Well, what's going on, everybody? It's Kimberly Flowers. You're watching Remote Producer Live. I'm Kimberly Flowers, and today we're going to be talking about how to create pop-up animated graphics. I'm actually going to be walking you guys through the process that we use to create animated broadcast graphics. Now, I want to kind of talk a little bit about like the uses of these pop-up ads. But before I do, I want to acknowledge each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being here. I know you could have been anywhere else in the world, but because you decided to be here, I'm going to make today a useful use of your time. So in the comment section, as we're going through, you are going to have questions. You just are, because I'm actually going to be walking you through the different software and all that kind of stuff, like step-by-step walkthrough for today. It's more of like a tutorial kind of format than maybe you're used to. We kind of usually give bullet points and we talk through, but I really thought it'd be cool to just kind of like literally walk you through the process for creating a pop-up ad. So in the comment section, guys, please tell me who you are, where you're watching us from. I always love to know like where you guys are tuning in from. And in the comment section, I'm actually going to be checking that area and, you know, chatting back with you guys. So it's really important to me that you communicate back with me and, you know, let's have some conversation throughout this process, okay? Now, we are talking about pop-up ads, so I kind of want to give just a really brief example before I even get into like what are the uses for it, of what kind of broadcast ad look like, right? Hey, Tracy, Atlanta, cool, okay. Hang on one second, guys. I'm gonna pop over here really quickly and show you an example of this like pop-up little ad, okay? And here we go, hold on, let's see. We can pull that up for you. There we go. Cool, right? Okay, so these are little ads that'll pop up and they have so many amazing uses, okay? I think, I don't know if they have that on, yeah. But let me just show it to you again really quickly for those of you that missed it. Look in the corner right here somewhere, right? And there it is. Awesome. So now I'm going to tell you how you can create your own custom little pop-up ads like this. And so there's so many great uses for these little pop-up ads. One of the first uses that we use them for is to obviously promote product launches. So if you have a upcoming product that launch that's happening, maybe a masterclass happening in 6 weeks, like this is a way for you to silently promote something or silently highlight something without actually like having to physically say it, right? And so it helps you to kind of stay on target with what you're doing, but at the same time, giving people the opportunity to know about certain things. You can use these also as repetitive call to action. So like if you're starting your broadcast, your live broadcast, and you want people to subscribe, you know, you may have an animated pop-up that says, hey, love today's content, make sure you subscribe, right? And we use pictures within the pictures of the clients within these kind of like pop-up ads just to kind of customize it even further to make it like their brand. You know, you can do this with just graphics without pictures and things like that. But I find that using pictures of people just kind of make it a little bit more personal, and even using stock photos and things like that to highlight different call to actions, just kind of give it, you know, I always tell you guys the difference between good and great is really in the details. And so this is kind of one of those like minor details that really help people feel like, man, this is a really professional broadcast, okay? So guys, thank you. Oh, you're in the chat. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I think that was in PNG. Love it. Okay. Had to put a GoFundMe. Samantha says she's from Philly. You guys are in the house today. Yay. Okay, cool. Now it's time for me to actually show you like how this actually goes down. Now we create our broadcast graphics, and I say broadcast graphics, like animated broadcast graphics. We start off in Photoshop and then we work our way to After Effects. Now it's actually not a hard process if you know what you're doing. So that's why I'm teaching you what you're doing. But I do want to just let you guys know that this is kind of an advanced tutorial in that this show is for people who are looking to be remote producers and produce a product or a level of quality for clients that maybe can't produce it for themselves, or maybe can do it, but they don't have the time to really want to do it. They really just want to show up and be an amazing host of the show. And they're really counting on you to create the experience for the broadcast to make it something that is visually compelling, that is professional, that is, you know, kind of high level. And so we use these to kind of move that that shift that little professionalism from good to great. Like something just about animated graphics. Would you guys agree? Something about animated graphics just make you feel like, man, that was professional. That's what they, you know. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. But just know that we are using Photoshop, and we're going to use a combination of Photoshop and After Effects. You can get both of these as a free trial download. So if you are inspired by this broadcast and you don't already have, you know, Photoshop and After Effects, you can definitely download it for 30 days for free and get your little animated graphics, do a few of them, you know, if you want to. And then, you know, after the 30 days, you can decide whether or not you want to continue with the trial or not. Okay. So we talked about some of the uses. So to promote product launches, if you have a book, you can have somebody pop up with the book, or you can just have the image of the book pop up with a little, you know, highlighted message that tells them where to go, like go to the website or do whatever, right? If you have an online course, if you have free incentives, like gift incentives, like, hey guys, subscribe. And when you do, you get this amazing checklist, right? And you can have that as an animated pop-up. And so now we're going to show you how to do that. So another good use for it is repetitive call to action. So such as subscribe or comment below. Like if you know you use those pretty often and you want to have a creative custom way for how you do that, then pop-up ads and graphics and things like that are a really awesome use. The other use that I want to make sure that I don't forget to say is that these pop-up graphics are also really cool for promoting sponsors, right? So sometimes your client may have a show and they may have commercials within their show. Some of our clients don't want to have commercials. They don't want to break up the content, but they do want to acknowledge sponsors throughout the show. And a really great way to do that is to have these pop up, you know, kind of graphics show up and say, hey, today's broadcast is sponsored by, and it's a quiet way for you to like let people know, hey, the broadcast is sponsored by so-and-so. Or, you know, if they have products or ads or things like that, like if your sponsors have products that they want highlighted throughout the show, and this is like a silent way for you to be able to do that, a professional way to really showcase their products and services. These are just really cool ideas that I want you guys to start thinking about as a remote producer. You want to think about, how can I create the highest level experience for the viewer and really satisfy the need, you know, of the customer that I'm working with, you know, as it pertains to their broadcast objectives, right? So, we're going to get into this now. I'm actually going to be moving back and forth into some different spaces, but I want you to follow along. And if you have questions, then definitely make sure that you post those in the comments area. And I will be kind of going back and forth as we do this. Okay. So I want to go. A photo that I took like after a broadcast, right? Like I took this photo after a broadcast, and then we put it into Photoshop. I want to start here because this is the first place. Like the first thing that we're going to do is cut out the image of a person, right? So let's just say your client submits a photo and you now need to like cut out the background and use that image, you know, for some pop-up graphics that you want to use it for. Okay. So I'm going to show you how we do that. Okay. Let's take a look. You guys following along so far? Oh, hold on. Are you guys back with me? It said that it might have muted. Mic check, mic check. I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me very well. For whatever reason, Siri popped up on my laptop right now. And okay, you can hear me, Alex? Cool. Okay, good, you guys. Okay, so if Siri popped up on my thing, and I guess it muted me as I was trying to talk or whatever. But anyways, so I'm going to start here. This is in Photoshop. We just opened up Photoshop, and this is a picture that I took, I think last week, you know, on the episode. And I wanted to use this as an example. So like if your client submits a photo to you, you need to drop out the background, and then I'm going to show you how to animate this or put this in another composition and animate it. Okay. Everybody following along? Okay. Julia, thank you. Tracy. Awesome. You guys. Thank you, Alex. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to move into this here. So the first thing that you want to do inside of Photoshop is to cut out the image of your client from the background. Okay, now this is relatively simple to do. The first thing that you want to do is hit the selection tool, right? So you guys can see first of all, you would need to hit the layer that you're trying to work with, right? So you'll hit the layer just by clicking it, and then you'll select the selection tool. There's a couple of different selection tools. This one is just like to move the entire image, and this one here is to select a specific area of the photo, okay? So all I did was click that, and then now I'm going to start at the top of my head and allow this to kind of like select just me, right? So it's going to so you'll just click it again, click it until like all of the person is selected. I'm actually going to select this too, just because I want this in the frame, okay? And let's select that area. This is kind of a rough draft, right? But I just want to show you guys kind of how easy this can actually be, right? So I'm actually going to select the laptop too. And now as you can see, there's areas in here that have been selected that we don't want selected. So what you'll do is hit if you look at this area at the top left-hand corner, there's 3 different types of brushes. One says add, one says subtract. Right now, we just had it on add, and we added all of me, right? And now there's some areas that we need to subtract, so we'll hit the subtract there, and then we'll click, to kind of make that just a little bit more precise, the cutout a little bit more precise there. And we'll hit the subtract on this side so we can make sure that it's just getting me and not me and other things, right? So I kind of zoomed in just a little bit so you guys can see that, but that's kind of a precise little cutout. It didn't take too much time. And as you can see, it looks like we got most of the things selected. I'm going to hit the plus sign again. Oops. I'm going to hit the plus sign again just to make sure that we got all of that going. And all of this little board here. And it looks like there's just a tiny little area that I didn't get. So I'm going to, boom. Okay, perfect. So now that that's cut out, the next thing that you want to do is select at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to make this smaller to make sure that you guys can see this. There's a masking tool here, right? And so you just want to hit that little button there. Can you guys see that? Let me see if I can make this smaller. Hang on. Oops. Now I totally took it out. Hold on 1 second. Let's put it back in there. Okay, I was trying to make it smaller, but it's not. Trying to make it shorter so you can see that. Okay, but guys, there's a masking tool. So just hit the third one at the bottom and boom, now it's cut out, right? So this is a very rough cut. Another thing that you can do to kind of refine that edge is to hit the mask itself, right? You want to select the mask and then hit mask edge. And this is a good way for you to kind of like clean up the masking. So like we'll smooth it out a little bit, maybe, and then shift the edge just a tiny bit to make it less or more of the frame. Do you see how that? If I shift it this way, then it makes it smaller. If I shift it this way, it gives more of the frame. But I'm just going to press OK. And for the sake of this particular tutorial, whatever was, like you see this little edge here is a little bit funny. I'm just going to erase it. So we're going to hit the eraser tool, which is right here. I mean, the brush tool, sorry. You're going to hit the brush tool. Make sure that you have the masked layer selected. And then you want to make sure, so as you can see in the masked area here, there's white and black, right? So the selection is in white and the erased area is in black, okay? Now, if you wanted to erase more of this frame, then you would select the brush tool and make sure it's set to black. Here you can select all the different colors, but you want to make sure it's black there, right? And then just kind of use your mouse there to kind of delete a little bit of that, right? You can change, for those of you who are in Photoshop and you know Photoshop, you know that the brushes here, you can actually change the density of them or the hardness of them. And so I'm going to select the one that has like a little bit less opaque, and then just kind of make sure that that's a defined edge, right? And there you have it. Like, let's zoom out. Now you can see that this is just an image of me, right? And so now what I want to do is use this image and write some text on the side of it and allow this to kind of be my pop-up. So in order for me to do that, I'm going to first save this document that you just did, and save as. So you'll just hit File, hit Save As, and then make sure that you save that as something that you remember, like me demo pop up. I don't know why you would remember that, but I'm going to remember that because I'm going to put it on my desktop. And then I'm going to hit, when it asks you what kind of file you want to save it as, make sure that you save it as a PNG file, okay? As a PNG file. Then you're going to hit save. The one thing that a lot of people forget when they're trying to export documents that have cut out backgrounds is that they forget that the PNG option that they want to, when they select the PNG option, make sure it'll give you a pop-up that says, do you want it to be interlaced or not? Select interlaced, okay? Are you guys able to see that? It's showing the Chrome area, but I'm not for sure. I mean, showing the window, but I don't think I have it on the full desktop. Okay, I think I keep hitting this thing, so it's muting me by accident. Are you guys still hearing me? Okay. So yeah, so we're going to select this and then make sure that you hit Save As PNG. Save as PNG, and then save it on your desktop. Okay, so if you're following along, that's what you want to do. Hit File, Save As, and then save as whatever name, .png, save it to your desktop. Okay, now let's move to the next step. The next step that we want to do is we want to open up a new file. In order to do this, all you have to do, let me hit interlace, okay. Then you want to open up File, hit New, and then it will ask you, I'm going to shift this really quickly so where you can see my whole screen, because I don't think you guys can see the pop-up options that it's showing me, okay? So let me just adjust this slightly. Hold on one second. I'm going to go to screen. Let's see. This will work here. Good. Okay, now you guys can see that I'm in something. Okay, so this should show the desktop now. So this should show all the options. I want to make sure that you guys can see the options here, okay? So as you can see, I'm going to hit File. We saved this already as a PNG. Now I'm going to open up a new project in Photoshop. And I can name it Animated Lower Third. Animated Lower Third, okay? And the average, the width and height for like a lower third is going to be 1920 by somewhere in between 200 and 300. We're going to do 250 for the sake of this tutorial for the height of it, okay? So it's going to be 250 by 1920 instead of 1920 by 1080, which is the standard video size. We're making our lower third animated graphics 1920 by 250. Follow along, guys, and then make sure when you hit background contents, instead of white, make it transparent. Okay, then hit OK. And as you can see, there's now an area where we can put in other things, okay? So now, if you guys are following along with me, oops, this is, oh yeah, you should have been able to see that. So I'm going back and forth, but you should still be able to see. Let me make sure. Okay, yeah. The reason why I have it this way, I'm actually going to take it off of here and just do it this way real quick so that you guys can see now. Okay, so the next thing that you want to do is hit File in Photoshop, and we're going to import the image that we just blacked out, okay? So we're going to do that by hitting File and then hitting Place. If you're in CC, it's going to say Place Embedded Graphic, but in CS6 it just says place. So you just hit place and then you select the image from your desktop, okay? So since we know that we named it Me Demo Pop-Up, we just select it and there it is. It pops right in, okay? And now that it's popped in there, we can use this and add other elements. So first thing that I want to do is add a background, okay? I'm going to add a background to this. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to start with a rectangle, just a random like rectangle that we can manipulate inside of Photoshop. The way to do that is right here in this area here below the little mouse tool. You can see this says it's a circle, but you'll click it and it gives you other options and it'll say rectangle. And then it gives you an option to create a rectangle. So we're going to do that. We're just going to create a little box right there. Boom. Now this automatically filled as its default here. It was filled with a default. So I'm going to change those colors by hitting the fill button at the top left-hand corner. And I'm going to change the color from red by double clicking it to some sort of purplish tone, right? And then the top layer, I'm going to change from white to like a pinkish tone, right? Because those are kind of like the brand colors for Remote Producer Live here. The other cool thing that I want to show you guys is that at the top of this, like the bottom selects the color, but the top area in the selection area, selection for colors, you select the color at the bottom. The top says the opacity. And the reason why that's important is because I want the top part to be kind of like transparent from the top until it gets to a certain point, okay? So I'm gonna hit the opacity tool, and instead of it being at 100, I wanna put it to 0. And you can see, oops, okay, so it's telling me, let's try that again. Hang on one second. Make sure that that's selected. Okay, sorry. I did scale and I should have, let me go back to 100 for that. I need to hit the opacity right here where it says opacity and hit 0, okay? So as you can see how that immediately affected the graphic, we'll just close out of there now, but that immediately affected the graphic there, right? And it's in front of the image that I pulled in of myself. So I'm going to really quickly drag this down below the image where I put myself, right? And now you can see that there's a little cool little background happening there, right? One thing I want to do for the rectangle is it automatically had like a little border around it, and I want to take that border off. So what I'll do is in the top left-hand corner where it had the fill for the color, right next to it is stroke, okay? And I just want to turn that off to make sure that there's no border around the outside of what I'm trying to work with here, okay? So now when I select it and deselect it, you can see that there's no border there, okay? Now that looks pretty good. I can kind of leave it like that, or I can additionally, make this rectangle look a little different by hitting the command button. Let's see. You know what? For the sake of this, I'm actually just going to leave it just like this. I wanted to create a shape, but I don't want to get too detailed and confuse you guys. So I'm just going to leave it like this, okay? And then I want to add some text. So the way that we add text is really, really simple. Below, like you want to use this toolbar on the side, right? So the one that says T is for text. All you have to do is hit it and make sure you have it selected there, and then literally write some text. So you can say, what am I going to put? Ready for your own show, right? And then I need to scale that down. The way that you do that is just to hit the move tool there and grab the right side of it, hit shift and scale down just like that, right? And maybe I want this to be white instead of that color. So what I'll do is double click the T where the layers are here. And then in the top area here, you'll see like a little blue area. if I double click that, I can change the color to whatever I want it to be, right? So I'm going to do that right now. And then I'm actually going to move myself over by selecting the layer of myself and kind of move me over to that corner there. And then select the text that I just put there. And we'll put it right there. And then I'm going to put, let us produce it. Let us produce it. Right? And then I can probably scale that down just a little bit by hitting the move tool again and scaling it down just a tiny bit. And boom, that is your first little message, right? Now, I want to encourage you guys to kind of keep some things organized within this process, okay? And it's really important to kind of do that because inside of Photoshop, once you start getting like a bunch of different layers happening, you could literally start to confuse yourself. So one of the things that I want to encourage you to do is in this right-hand corner right here, whenever you have text, so I know, let me just explain. I'm going to come back here. Okay. So one thing that I know about this graphic is that it has technically 3 parts, right? The first part is going to say, hey, ready for your own show? Let us produce it. Now I can go directly from that into like inserting the logo as its own little message, right? Listen, let me just show y'all what we did again. So let's take a look, right? So there's one area of text there. Now there's another area of text. And then we go directly into the logo. That's the final thing. And then the animation disappears, okay? Now, for the sake of this one, because we're running out of time, like it's just happening so fast, you guys. I thought I was going to have more time to do this. I really thought I was going to be able to do this quickly, but I want to make sure that you understand each piece of it. So I'm going to kind of take my time with this, but I want you to follow along. And if you have any questions, let me know. Actually, I'm going to go to the comments area really quickly and see what you guys are saying out here. Use Adobe Spark. Yeah, they have that. Great. Yeah, there's a lot of different, it's not just directly associated with this particular software, you guys. There's a lot of different like editing software that you can create the graphic inside of. We do animate it with After Effects, and I'm going to show you kind of like how we do that in just a little bit. But I hope that I'm not losing you, but I want to make sure that you understand, like if you're trying to do this for yourself, you can actually take this broadcast and use it as a tutorial, how-to tutorial to get it done yourself, okay? So let's kind of walk through this just a little bit more. I'm going back into Photoshop here, okay? So the first thing I want to do to make sure that I am actually, oh, wait, hang on. Let me make sure you guys can see. That would be helpful, huh? Okay. The first thing that I want to do, going back to Photoshop, is to make sure that I organize the different text. So this is one phrase, and I'm going to highlight them both. And then you can hit Command G to group them, right? And that just keeps you organized. So now you should have what looks like 3 layers. One is the image of the client. The second one is the background. The third one should be the grouped text that you just created, right? And you can toggle these on and off by hitting the eyeball button there. Toggle them on and off that way. But I'm going to toggle it off just for a second, because I'm going to add a different text, and I want it to kind of be in the same area, right? So I'll put, for this text, www.remoteproducerlive.com, right? And that's too big, so I'm going to hit the move tool again, and I'm going to grab the end by hitting Shift and clicking, and then I can make that very small, right? So I'm going to bring that down here. And then I'm going to insert my logo right above here, right? So I'm going to do that by hitting File, hit Place, hit Place. It'll be embedded, Place as embedded if it's in CC, okay? On this laptop, we only have the older version on here, but on our studio laptop, it's the CC version, okay? So I'm going to hit Logo just for the sake of trying to make sure that we grab the logo real quick. We have probably a ton of logos on here, but let's just look for ours. Okay. here's one, but this is actually a PSD, so that's okay. So we'll place it in there. And as you can see, this is the dark version. I'm going to go ahead and double click this to be able to edit it. And then as you can see, this is a whole nother project file, but don't worry about it. Just know that I'm turning it light. You don't have to do this part, okay? So, but I'm going to do it just to make sure that our logo is light. Save. Okay, so that was a pre-created little lower third. Now you can see that the logo is light, and we need to scale it down by, again, hitting Shift, grabbing the corner, clicking the corner, and then moving it down, just scaling it down like that. And we maybe can make it just a little bit bigger there. Boom, okay? Let me make it just a tiny bit bigger. There we go, okay? And then I'm going to group these two pieces of text because now that's like its own little scene, I guess you can say, right? But it's going to be, those groups of text are going to be lumped together when we animate them, okay? So I want to just make sure that I stay organized. So I'm going to hit Command G to group those two together, right? Make sure you have them both selected, then hit Command G, and now they're grouped together, and I can toggle it on and off. Now you can see that if I have them both turned on, they look like they're right on top of each other. But that's okay, because when we animate it in After Effects, we need it to kind of look like this. Now, I decided on this graphic, on this rectangle, I am going to give it just a little bit more personality by widening out the top area. So all I have to do is select the rectangle here, hit Command if you're on a Mac. If you're on a PC, I think it's Control, okay? And then you just click the tip there, and I'm just gonna move it outward, okay? Same with the other side. Make sure you still have Command selected, and once you get that little arrow, click it, and then just widen it out, right? Just widen it out. Boom. Now that just gives it a little more personality, you guys. You don't have to do that, but it just gives it a little more personality, and it'll make it fun inside of our animation, okay? So what I want to do is hit File, Save As, and then you want to save it as a PSD. You want to save it as a PSD, okay? Photoshop file. And I'm going to save that right to the desktop. I named it Animated Lower Third Demo.psd and hit save. That's all you do. Okay? Everybody with me so far? Now, the next thing that I want to do is, now we're going to open up After Effects, okay? You can actually literally shut down Photoshop if you're following along up until this point. We've completely done what we needed to do inside of Photoshop, and now it's time to move on to turning those layers into animations using After Effects. Now, don't let After Effects scare you. Like, it's really not that complicated. After Effects can do a lot of different things, obviously. Like, there's a ton of different things that they can do. But for the purpose of this demonstration, like, if you follow my instructions to a T, then you'll be able to do this really quickly, okay? So let's kind of go through this process. So let's move over into, sorry about that, After Effects. Wait, I should probably go back and make sure that you guys, if you have any questions up until this point, put them in the comment section and I will address those questions really quickly, okay? Let's go back and see what's going on, you guys. You're following along, awesome. All right, you guys. Love it. Okay, cool. And no questions so far, so I'm gonna assume everybody is following along well. And again, guys, if you try this on your own and you do have questions in the comment section, you know, always go back and be like, hey, Kimberly, I got this far, I got a little stuck, what's going on? Like, how do I do this, right? And we'll try to answer all of the questions that we can in there as well, okay? All right, cool. So I'm going to After Effects. Again, you can go to adobe.com and download a free trial of After Effects to follow along for this tutorial today, okay? So let's go back into After Effects here. And I want to show you guys what we did For the sake of time, like I'm going to open up a new folder. So I want to show you guys exactly how this is. Now this here is the finished version of it. We've already kind of like pre-did this, but I am going to walk you through the step by step. So if you can see in the timeline, After Effects is kind of broken up just like a video editor would be. So there's a timeline at the bottom. There's an area at the top where you can see what's happening, to your layers and things like that. And animation like comes in a whole bunch of different formats in After Effects, but I'm going to show you just the very basic keyframe animation that you can do to kind of, create some really cool things. But this is the output. So as you can see, we have the text flying in from the left, and we have me popping up from the bottom, right? And slowly the background is becoming, it's going from zero opacity to like fully visible, okay? And then that shows up, and then we change the text, right? We didn't put that text in there for the sake of this one because it just would have taken too long. We just went directly to the last area there with the remoteproducerlive.com. Boom. And then the animation disappears. Okay. So I'm going to show you how we did this. I'm actually going to open up a new composition. So once you've opened up After Effects, all you need to do is hit File, New Project. Okay. File, New, then New Project. Okay. And then you want to hit Composition, hit New Composition, and then you can name your composition whatever you want to name it. So in this case, I'm going to just name it Demo 2. Okay? This part is important for you guys to see, so I'm actually going to move this again to this area here. And I want you guys to see. So you name the composition. Where it asks you about the width and the height of your composition, again, you want to make this to where it's 1920 by 250 because that was the ratio that we used for the animation inside of Photoshop, right? So you want to do 1920 by 250 and then hit OK. Okay? And there you go. Now you'll be able to see that this little area looks just like the one in Photoshop. And now all we need to do is import the Photoshop file that we just saved, okay? So the way that we do that is that we hit at the top, we'll hit File, we'll hit Import, File, import the file, right? And on the desktop, we saved this as animated lower third demo.psd, right? And you can name it whatever you want to, just make sure it has .psd at the end, and then hit Open, right? Now, when it opens, this is very important. When it opens, it'll ask you, do you want it to open as its own composition where all the layers are merged together as one, meaning it's going to be like one photo, or do you want it to be opened as editable layer styles, okay? Make sure that you hit editable layer styles because you want to be able to manipulate each layer that you use inside of Photoshop, okay? So then once you select that, hit OK. And you will see that it's that composition is here at the top, right? So the next thing that you want to do is drag that composition down to the bottom area inside of the first composition that you created. So drag it down into the timeline, essentially, and let's open it up, okay? Let's take a look at what we have here. The way that you open it up is that you'll hit the arrow. Let's see. Let me go back here. Okay, so now I want you guys to kind of focus in on this area, right? So you can see here, and I'm going to try to make this just a little bit, let's fit. There we go. Okay. So we're going to click the composition, hit the down arrow, hit transform. Oh, not transform, sorry. You're going to double click this. So double click it so you can see all the layers, okay? And then each one of these layers, you can see, like right now, it just has 2 layers selected. It looks like it's missing the group of text, but it's not. They're right there, right? So each group of text, now you can see why we grouped it together, because as we animate it, we want them to animate together, right? So the first thing that we're going to do is decide how we want this animation to come in, okay? So your lower third animated graphics should always be like how anywhere between 8 seconds long. The composition should be anywhere between 8 seconds long and 10 seconds long, okay? Whenever you selected the composition, it will give you that, like you can check that by going to composition settings. And here at the bottom, it says start time code, and then the duration, we have it at 10 seconds here, okay? If yours does not say 10 seconds, make sure that you just type 10 seconds in there and then hit okay. Now yours can be as short as 8 seconds, as long as 12 seconds for an animated graphic, but that's where I would kind of recommend you stay. This one's gonna be 10 seconds. So we're gonna hit okay, okay? Now it looks like we have 4 groups that we can animate, okay? So the way that we're going to animate this is we need to decide how we want the graphic to come in. Now the way the graphic is going to come in should happen within 1 second, right? So let me explain. Let me go back here. And again, let's take a look at the actual lower third here, right? So you can see that comes in. When it first comes in, it only takes like a second to come in. And then it takes at the end here, boom, it's like 1 second and it disappears, right? So the way that we do that is that we decide where things need to happen at the 1 second mark. So in order for us to do that, we look at the timeline here and we'll just drag it up just a little bit so you guys can see the 1 second mark. So all I do is I put my time code right there, boom. And at that 1 second mark, everything should be like in place the way that we want it to be, okay? And in order to do that, we need to open up each one of these by hitting the down arrow to see how we're going to transform each one of these, okay? So I want this area here, oh, not here. I want me, as I have me selected, I want me to be pop up from the bottom, right? So in order to do that, I'll hit transform, make sure that your thing is at the 1 second mark, because right now we know that we want it to come to look like this, right? So you'll hit the transform button, making sure that your time code is at the 1 second mark. And then I'm going to hit position, the keyframe position. Boom, there it is, right? And then I'm going to, when I move this back to the 0 seconds, I'm just going to drag myself down. That's it. That's literally all you have to do. And as you can see, there's a line there that tells you that this is going to animate from the top up, right? So that's all you have to do for the animation. So like now when I scroll the timeline from 0 seconds to 1 second, you can see that's how I pop up. That's really not hard, you guys. Like it's super simple. That's all you have to do for the animation. Now we're going to do that for each one of them, right? Each one of the layers. So we're at the 1 second mark again. And I want the rectangle. I'm going to hit the transform button because that's where all of the keyframes are. Keyframes are just these little time clock looking things there. And then you'll hit whatever one that you want to change. So for this background, I want the background to kind of I want the opacity to go from 0 to 100, right? So I want it to, at 1 second, to be like the way it is right now. But before that, I want it to be at 0. Like I want it to kind of just fade in, okay? So the way that I do that is I just hit the keyframe for opacity, making sure that my time code is at 1 second. Hit opacity there. And then when it go back to 0, and then make sure that instead of 100, it's at 0. Boom, it's at 0. So now when I drag the time code, you can see that I have me popping into the frame and the background is appearing out of nowhere, right? So that's really cool. The other thing that we need to make sure that we animate though, making sure this is back at 1 second, is the text. So the first group of text that we have, we'll make sure that we hit the transform button so that we can see what we're doing, right? And if you want to toggle things on and off, you can just make sure that you're selecting the right layer there. We want this ready for your own show. Let us produce it to pop in right at that 1 second mark too. So we want to make sure that we're at the 1 second mark here. And then we're going to hit the position keyframe. Sorry. because I actually want this text to come in from the left-hand corner, right? So I'm going to hit the position keyframe, and then I'm going to go back to 0 like we've been doing, right? And I'm going to drag, like literally on the screen here, drag the layer that has the words on it from here. Boom. And now you can see that that is, whenever I drag the time code again, you can see, man, that comes right into place. Isn't that cool? And that's how easy it is to animate something using After Effects, okay? The other thing that we want to make sure that we do is add in the new text. So like maybe we want that first message to kind of linger there for like a second or two, right? So let's just say 2 seconds. So we'll go to the 3-point mark and make sure that where we hit group and we hit the positioning area, instead of hitting the keyframe on this side, you want to hit it on this side to let After Effects know that you want to keep it the same up until this point, right? So you'll hit the keyframe there. And then from the transitions usually happen within a 60-second period. So I'm going to transition this group of text into the next group of text, okay? So I want another second, from the 3-second mark to the 4-second mark, I want this text to disappear and I want the new text to appear, okay? So the way that I do that is like I already hit the position and make sure that we have a keyframe starting at the 3-second mark. But at the 4-second mark, boom, I'm going to put it there. I want the position to either go, for this one, so I just want the text to kind of fade out. So I'm going to hit the opacity. Okay, so I need to go back to the 3-second mark. And I hit the position, and that's fine. But I need to also hit opacity there. And then I'm going to go to the 4-second mark and hit the second keyframe, right? And make sure at the 3-second mark, when I select this keyframe, that it says 0 and not 100, right? So now let's see what that does to it, okay? So as you can see, within 1 second, everything pops in. Oh, wait, hold on. It looks like okay. So this needs to start out with a keyframe also that has 100, right? So we'll start there, and then we'll make sure that has 100. So when it comes in, then it's there. You know what, guys? Sorry, I messed up here. So let's start over on that area for the opacity, okay? So like for wherever it was when it came in, and there it is, right? But at this point, if we're going to change out the opacity of something, then we need to make sure that we have the opacity checked, right? At that 1 second mark, it's at 100, right? And then we want it to stay like that until the 3-second mark. So we'll hit the other keyframe there, and then we want it to transition at the 4-point mark. So we'll hit the keyframe once more. And we'll hit it once more there, okay? So at the 3-second mark, now let's make sure that it's at 0. And as you can see, this is going to disappear from the 2-second mark to the 3-second mark, okay? And I'm going to delete that. And then at that same time, we want the second group of text. So we'll close this group 1 up and open up group 2 and hit the opacity, boom, at the 2-second mark, which is going to be 0 at this 2-second mark. And at 3 seconds, we want it to appear. So we'll make it 100. So now let's take a look at what that looks like. Everything comes in at 1 second. The text changes right there. We do need to make sure that's visible by putting on the eyeball there if it didn't show up just for a second, and that's okay. Let's take a look at it one more time. And there it is. Boom, right? And that's how easy it is to change out the animation on this. Now, again, remembering that like keyframes just tell you when you want something to start and when you want it to finish, okay? So the options that each one of these layers have when it comes to the transformation of something is like you can change the position of it, you can change the opacity of it, which means that you can change how visible it is or how invisible it is. You can change the rotation of it, like you can have it facing one way and then change it another way, you know, from this time to this time. That's all keyframes do, is tell you like what you want to happen from this time to this time, okay? And so we've just kind of been manipulating like what we want each thing to do using these little keyframes. Guys, are you still with me? I hope I'm not going like over your head, but again, I do want to make sure that you do understand that this is an advanced tutorial. It's an advanced tutorial because it's not something that like, it's not super user friendly for like the average person to be able to do this like without any kind of, like it's going to take you some getting used to like the workflow. Okay. So you are already, if you're watching this show as a remote producer, you're expected to be a professional in some regards. Like you should have some knowledge of live stream. You should have some knowledge of, you know, how to prepare graphics like in Photoshop or whatever, you know, Canva, it doesn't matter what you use, but just making sure that you know how to prepare graphics for the live stream is probably a big part of your job as a remote producer. So I do want to make sure that you know how to do that, right? So this is assuming that you know a little bit about graphics. And even if you're not really familiar with like how to animate them, even if you know how to do like create graphics in Photoshop, all of these programs kind of work the same when it comes to like just finding out where the buttons are for each one of the layers of software, okay? So how are you guys doing with me so far? If you're still with me, can the animate can it be done in Adobe Premiere Pro? Yes, some animation can happen in Adobe Premiere Pro. So something kind of simple like this, you could do in Adobe Premiere, but it just does have limitations, okay? So like if you're, you know, there's lots of other things that we can do, like add light and add like, you know, blinking lights or whatever, like twinkles and like layers inside of layers, like video layers inside of graphic layers. Like it just can get really complex, but I'm trying to keep it simple, but I don't want you to be afraid to use After Effects to start with the animation process, because as you get good at it, and again, you don't have to get good at it. Like it depends on, because obviously, like I don't have to actually go in and do all the we have people who do that for us, but like it's important for you to like understand how the process works, so that if you have to train people or if you have to show people how to do this, then you know you'll have some knowledge behind that. Okay. Let's see. Looks like you guys are still following along. That's good. All right. I'm going to go back. So now the last thing that we need to do for this particular broadcast is like animate how it goes off. Okay. So I'm going to show you how to do that really quick. And we're going to only be here for the next like 5 minutes. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Thank you for hanging in there with me. And again, guys, we are in Restream Studio. We are using an encoder to help us showcase this, but we are using Restream Studio for this. So we're actually going to do a whole we're going to do a whole presentation or training, sorry, on how to use Restream Studio with encoders so that you can incorporate all of these other different things, okay? So I think it's extremely useful to use something like Restream Studio so that you can actually like broadcast to different platforms all at the same time. You have your whole little chat area in here, right? And then at the same time, that coupled with an encoder allows you to do some really cool things when it comes to animated graphics. And I will tell you that there is some little tricks to the trade when it comes to graphics and animation inside of Restream Studio that we've learned and that we are going to show you on its own episode. Okay. So I think we're going to talk a little bit more about encoders on our next broadcast. So I think it's important that you guys understand how these tools work together to really create something seamless and professional, and that will really enhance what you're doing even more. Okay. So let's go back to our After Effects project and let's animate this out. Like, let's just finish out the animation real quick. It's so funny, like in your head, like I saw myself doing this like faster, and now it's already been an hour and you guys, but you've been hanging in there, so good job. Okay, so here we go. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. All right, cool. So now I'm back in here and I'm showing you, we are at the, like everything kind of came in at the 1 second mark, right? We animated that. Then at the 2 second mark, we decided that we were going to change that first text and make it into the second group of text that we created, which is the logo and the URL at the bottom, right? And then we're going to leave everything as is until the very end. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of scroll to the very end of this at the 10 second mark, right? And that's when we want everything to kind of disappear. It should be disappeared by the 10 second mark. So at the 9 second mark is when we're going to start animating things out. You know what I mean? Like we're going to have everything start to disappear. Okay. So make sure that all of your layers are open so that you can see what you're doing. Okay. Now group 1 has already been like, it's already out because we animated it out when we put in the second group of text. Okay. But for everything else, it should be open for you to be able to animate out. So let's take a look. First things first is make sure that you decide how you want the animation to go out, right? So for this demonstration, I popped in from the bottom. I'd like to also retract from the top to the bottom again, right? And the text came in from the left-hand corner. Maybe we want it to dissipate the same way, right? And then the background kind of like faded in, and then we're gonna have it fade out again. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how we do each one of these, right? So let's go first to the person, right? And then we're gonna hit the position. Let's see here. Oh, that's the background, so that's the wrong one. Okay, so we can see that we hit the position one here, and then I just need to make sure that on the right-hand corner of that keyframe, I hit it again, just to make sure that we tell After Effects, like from the point that we started until this point, we want it to stay like this. But from the 9 second mark to the 10 second mark, we're gonna do something different, right? So we just hit the keyframe and do nothing else, right? Then you go to this 10 second, and then just drag the image down again, right? So when I scroll through this, you'll be able to see, sorry, that goes right back down. So if we were to go like from the beginning, and I'm actually gonna just make this smaller so you can see all of the timeline here. I came in at the 1 second mark, we traded the words out, and at the 9 second mark, I went back down, right, into the 10 second mark. Now by the 10 second mark, we want all of this to be disappeared. So that's how we animated that part out. The next thing that you want to do is focus on the background. Sorry. So let's focus on the background. And then the background, we change the opacity. So we want to hit the keyframe on the right-hand side, not on the left-hand side, the right-hand side, to let it know that we want it to stay that way until the 9 second mark. And then at the 9 second mark, we want it to disappear. So we're going to hit the 10 second mark on the timeline, and then we're going to make that opacity from 100 to 0. Okay? So now if we scroll again, you can see two things happen. One, the image of the person will now pop back down, and the background image will disappear as well, right? The only thing left to do is to make sure that the text that we have disappears as well. And we'll do that by just selecting the text layer, which is going to be group 2, right? And as you can see, we had the opacity there at 91. So at the 9-second mark, I'm going to widen this out so you can see the 9-second mark. Then you'll make sure you hit the keyframe graphic to let you know it stays the same up until that point. And then at the 10-second mark, we will bring it all the way down to 0. And then let's take a look at the entire animation, 10-second animation, right? So it goes from nothing to person popping up, message popping up, background fading in, and then the message changes, right? Right there. And then at the 9-second mark, everything disappears. Boom. Now, the only thing left to do, guys, is to export this. The way that you do that is that you hit File. And you would think you hit Export, but you don't hit Export, actually. You'll select File, and then Export, and then Add to Render Queue, okay? Add to Render Queue. Now, this part is important, so I'm actually going to go back to this area here to show you this, okay? So whenever you hit Export, you'll hit File, again, Export, Add to Render Queue, and then this will happen. So this will take the place of the timeline here, and you'll hit Output Module. You want to make sure that it's a QuickTime format, okay? And if it's on QuickTime, you'll see that there's lots of options here, but you want to make sure that this says QuickTime. The only other thing that you want to change is where it says channels and it says RGB. Change it from RGB to RGB plus alpha. And that makes sure that the background stays transparent and you're able to export this video with a transparent background, okay? Press OK. And then all you'll need to do now is go hit render. Or you can name it whatever you want to. So output 2, you can double click that and then it'll give you options to name it. I'm going to name this demo 2, right? And I'm going to put it on my desktop and hit save and then hit render. And you can see how quickly that rendered out. Boom. And everything disappears. So it'll show you the animation real quick. And now that's saved to the desktop as its own thing. So now using my encoder, I can just add this file from my desktop. Let's go to desktop here. And demo number 2. And you guys will be able to see this real time, right? Oh, it popped in a little bit weird there. So let's move it. Okay, let's try it again. And there it is, right? Okay, wait, hold on. Let's not, we'll remove it and then boom, the beginning, there we go. Okay, so now as you can see, now we've created this. All we did was import it now, and now you guys should be able to see the new pop-up that we just created. How cool is that? Now you guys can start to create some of your own really cool DIY graphics. I hope this gave you a framework. It was intended to give you kind of a framework of how to start animating your graphics for broadcast reasons and how to incorporate them with encoders and things like Restream Studio to really up-level the look and the feel of your broadcast, guys. If you found that helpful, in the comment section, say, Kimberly, I found this very informational, very helpful. If you want to know more about how to do that, then just make sure that you go to remoteproducerlive.com, go to restream.io to use Restream Studio to really, in collaboration with some other software things, to really help you up-level the look and the feel of your broadcast. Some other encoders, obviously, when we get into that, like, OBS is another encoder, and we'll probably maybe do this in OBS to kind of show you guys like how to use the OBS encoder in collaboration with Restream Studio, but there's like a ton out there that you can really use. And when we talk about encoders, I'll go through a lot of the different ones that you can use and how to set it up with Restream Studio to really get the most out of your live stream experience for your clients, you guys. I hope that you found that helpful. It's really all I have for you today. Thanks so much for staying with me in today's broadcast. And as always, if you are looking to up level, the user ease of your live streams and things like that, make sure you go to restream.io to check out, how to use Restream Studio to really enhance your broadcast. And if you are looking for someone to do the broadcast for you, you're looking at all this and you're like, man, that's really cool, but I really don't want to do this for myself. I don't have the time to invest in this, but I really want it done for me. Make sure you go over to remoteproducerlive.com and learn about how you can get your live stream production produced for you. If you guys don't have any questions for me, I'm looking for questions inside of the broadcast, but I don't see any questions so far. Again, guys, I want to thank you for your time. I know you could have been anywhere else in the world, but I'm so excited that you're here with me, and I hope that you'll stay tuned in and that you'll hit the notifications button to never miss another episode of Remote Producer Live every Tuesday right here wherever you're finding us. So if you're on the Kimberly Flowers page or you're on the Restream page or wherever it is that you're watching us from, we appreciate you. And I want to say goodbye for now, and we'll see you guys on the next show.